How you doing, everybody? This is AfterThoughts. Today, Thomas preached 2 Thessalonians 1 through 4. And yeah, when you were right when you started, and you're like, there's not really a whole lot of exegesis with this one, and there is not a lot of exegesis because it is a very simplistic introduction, but it obviously had quite a bit of depth. I like how you started off and you said no jokes, no analogies, and then you went straight into a whole bunch of jokes and analogies about your physical prowess. And so I actually really liked your. Uh, I really like that analogy on how the church and many in it treat it just like that. I mean, every time you were talking, I was like, "Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good." So it's kind of hard for a little self-deprecation sometimes from the pulpit, uh, but there you were. So as I was going through it, or as you were going through it, uh, I really, I'm really happy with the direction our church has been over the
hmm
last 7.5 years, as you had said. But obviously, every one of the churches can keep going. What do you think? Like the main step, the main focus ought to be. Is it individually or is it corporately?
I would maintain that it's going to be individual first because there's a sense the corporate is a reflection of the individuals together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you ask, well, what kind of church do you have? It's going to be in many ways the sum total and the average of what you have among the members. If you have, like in our congregation, you have a lot of people that, if like when we're doing fellowship time, that love to fellowship, we're going to be a fellowshipping kind of church. And we kind of joke
Mm-hmm.
about that, how it's just everybody. And again, it's not that every single person is,
Right.
but the vast majority are doing this. So that becomes your quality overall. And so that's why I try to with this to speak first to the individual. And this comes out of why in Families of Virtue, we emphasize the family because strong families make strong churches. You put a whole bunch of strong families
Right.
together, you're going to have a strong church. But what makes those families strong is going to be the individuals that are in there.
Right.
So it has to start there.
So you think as a church we ought to focus on the family, which we've been doing, of course, and the individuals, which we've been doing through our discipleship groups.
hmm
Like, what are the other steps that we can, like, as a church, we can move forward and grow more in faith, love, and hope?
Well, and the reason why I'm having people look at their individual, like where are they, because the follow-up questions are going to be things like, well, why is it this way, and start asking in terms of, well, what is it that they really love, what is it that they really want, because when it comes to things like good health, on one side you can want it, but you want other things more.
Right.
So this is why, like in my case, that's been always my struggle. It's like I want when the desserts are presented, I want those more, and so I make bad choices.
Right.
Or like what happened this weekend, I went into the weekend. I'm going to make good health choices at this conference, and then we went to Chili's, and I'm faced with this trio appetizer that I've not eaten in 20 years, and so literally, I'm like, like some people are like, it seems like a little much, and I was like, so bad choices were made. But that's because, I mean, and I say this, and I think this is why the health analogy is so relevant, because that becomes the struggle. I do want health, I do want these kinds of things, but I want other things more. So, as it relates between faith, hope, and love, I think many in the church, not just ours, but in other churches, they want to be growing in faith, hope, and love, but there's other things they want more. And that's the kind of thing we need to identify individually.
It's also easy to. It's also really easy to want those other things more if you continue to stay ignorant
hmm
of the results of those health choices, or
hmm
if you stay ignorant of Scripture and the results of what a weak man looks like in the home, or
hmm
a quarrelsome wife looks like in the home. It's easy to stay ignorant, and then when you are ignorant, it makes it a whole lot easier to make those bad choices.
And it's easy to compare with other people. And again, in the health analogy, I look at so many other people. I was like, well, I'm not that. I'm not that bad. I'm not that far
Hmm.
gone. So, well, because I'm not that, I'm just going to be content with where I am. And the problem is, I'm not where I need to be.
Right.
And
You
I
look at
think,
Paul, and he's like, "Emulate me as I emulate Christ."
right.
in that same journey, we should look upward and say, well, I'm not that,
But that's
but I
why
ought to be.
we spend our time looking. Well, we look at the Corinthian church, we're like, well, we're not that bad, so we're okay. You
Yeah.
know, and we look at like the Pharisees. Well, we're not that bad, so we're okay.
Right.
But again, when you're looking at Paul and you're looking at Christ, you realize, man, we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Do I want that level? Do I want to be like that? And I think that's why with this sermon, it really gives us three, and it was easy, three things to kind of focus on. And then again, they are virtues. They must be practiced. They are given by God. It's God who calls us to faith, the Holy Spirit. It's God who gives us love. It's God who's the one who will ultimately give us that hope of salvation that we're striving for. So having been given those, I guess one connection I could have made is 2 Peter 1:3, where he says, you have everything you need for life and godliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so we possess this already.
Right.
It's almost like the better analogy would be like having all the gym equipment in my garage. I've already got it. It's just a matter of
Just
am I
gotta
going to
walk
use
out
it.
in the garage and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you also, what I really like, the other analogy was the driving the manual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you've ridden in a bunch of cars with people driving manuals, but that doesn't mean you actually know what to do or how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that interesting because a lot of people spend time in the churches and they see the pastors and those that are spiritual, and they're like, well, I know, at least know what it looks like. And if I just stay close to them, maybe I can just ride shotgun all the way through. And so I like that analogy too. It's not that hard to drive a manual. I mean, I absolutely can teach you someday if you would like. So you can't use that analogy anymore. But I also feel the same way, as it's not that hard to pursue Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to make those decisions, but it's the pursuit of that really is not a difficult task if those are the choices you make.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the health goal. I'm assuming the health pursuit is the same way. Like, you don't have to pursue it in a sense and make that. You're not going to all of a sudden, be entering Ironmans, right? But the pursuit, the beginning of, is not a hard thing to do.
It's those basic choices. Do you want it? And it's like one of my professor friends who was running. He was talking about, the buying the expensive shoes. He had these really bright pink shoes, and he had got them on clearance, and apparently they're like superior running kind of shoes and things. And he was telling me how, the one of the things they have to budget in their house is because all their kids are runners, that the shoes are only good for about 300 miles or something. Like after about 200 or 300 miles of running, they wear out and they have to buy new shoes. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy cow, like
It's expensive.
how do you know? Like, first of all, the fact that you know that you can only run that far, and the fact that they're burning through them like that.
Mhm.
Like I feel like just natural entropy just destroys my shoes over time. They just wear and tear, but that's more like the sides and things, not you'll wear through the soles after like 300 miles of running. And I'm like, I wouldn't know that. But that's again because I'm not running, because I'm not even using my shoes that way. So I think many of us in the church, we have these spiritual tools that have been given us, and we're not using them. We're not wearing through them. We're not keeping them well maintained, because we're not using them. And I think that's, in some ways, like I said, I know what it takes to run, and I see these people, but I myself am not doing it. And I think in this analogy, the reason why I keep going to it is because I understand it. Like if I start running, it's going to hurt. It's actually going to be a lot harder for me than the ones who are doing it,
It
because
hurts
they're
so
already
bad.
in shape.
Yeah. I run with
And-
Brian once or twice a week, and it's my least favorite thing to do. And because I obviously am not built to run, it just hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and those shoes are a good example. You can go buy the running shoes
Mm-hmm.
and you can put those running shoes on. You can come to church and you could sit in the pew. But that doesn't mean you're going to go through the pain and the dedication of what it takes
Mm-hmm.
to get into shape. And I think that's the same thing. Is a lot of people think that sitting in the pew is the running, like that is the race. And we can look at the families that are inside the churches and realize some of them are just as broken as anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an indicator that they're not doing, like, that man or that woman, they are not pursuing him.
Mm-hmm.
They are not pursuing faith, hope, and love, because that was kind of what you were talking about, is sanctification is not just something we sit back and we allow to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that way? There's so much effort that we have to do, and that's why. I mean, I think there's people that come to our church and leave our church quickly because we have a call to obedience. Like, we want you to do something. We
Mhm.
want you to do more than just sit on your fat spiritual butt.
I think that's why, in many ways, you never see a book written, Grow Your Church the Jesus Method, because he would lay those things down
Yeah.
and people would walk away and he's like, you want to go too? You want to leave? And they're like, they tell him, like, you have the words of life. Where else are we going to go?
Yeah.
So there's some element. Churches, I think they're not used to it.
Mm-mm.
Then that people, if they've been able to be passive for so long, requiring them to do something is almost, they can't fathom it. You know, and again, I'm not one who runs or does a lot, but in college, I had to walk to college. I didn't have a car, and I didn't walk far. We're talking like 2 or 3 blocks. Like, it wasn't bad. But I remember when my little brother came to stay with me, and he's 8 years younger than me. So, you know, he'd have been like 11 or 12 at the time. And we were walking to school, and he had to stop, like, and sit down and take a rest. I was like, what? It's just a few blocks. He's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, you know, and my brother, back in those days, he was way out of shape. He is much healthier than I am now.
Mm.
But back then, he joked with me. He said, "Can you destroy every picture from me, like when he was that?" But I didn't think about it. I didn't realize it. And I'm like, he really can't walk this far. We're gonna have to stop and rest. And I did. And then he got up and went. You know, we made
Let's
it.
be real though. He could have.
He could have,
He
but
just
again,
didn't have the fortitude
no
to actually push
fortitude.
through it.
You know, and I
And
noticed
see, the
this.
reason I'm pushing back is because I have so many people that I talk to about their spiritual life, and there's always the I can'ts, and the reality is, yeah, you can. It just takes some effort and some. I mean, you're gonna face some consequences and some pain. I can't do that because at work they don't allow me to talk about Jesus. No, you can absolutely talk about Jesus. You may get fired. You may want to push and not do the bad things they want you to. Like, you have the choices.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes the fortitude to make those choices and follow through. Like, you can get in shape. It just takes some work to. I mean, you just got to make the decisions.
Right.
Now, could you run a marathon tomorrow? I'm not saying that.
No.
But all right. Well, I appreciate it. It was a good sermon. I liked it. Yeah, when we roll up on certain verses and I question, like, how am I going to preach this? I'm kind of glad this one was you and not me, because I would have looked at it and gone, oh, here we go.
I was excited from the get-go. I looked at it. I immediately honed in on it. I was like, oh, this gives a chance. I think the benefit of sermons like this, because there's not all that needs to be unpacked.
Right.
I was
You can
able
really
to just
focus on
hone
this one.
in on these ideas, play with it, experiment.
See,
let people
that's
see
what
it
I do on
before.
Wednesday nights. I just make it really small verses, and then I get
Mhm.
made fun of for only focusing on really little. You know, we don't make it very far. You know, but no, I appreciate it. It was a good sermon. It was a good challenge.
Mhm.
It was a great challenge, because the idea that everybody has a rubric in front of them to grade themselves in the virtues of faith, hope, and love, and then has to report to the teachers
Mhm, mhm.
and have the conversation. I don't know. I think you and I need to make a list and check some names off and make sure that we're holding them accountable, just as you have called them into it.
I should pull out the church roster and
I will
check them off as we go.
I'll talk to the secretary and get that list, and you and I can just make sure that we're
That's good.
making sure that we're holding them accountable to what they were called to do, sitting in that pew this morning.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, and we will talk to you guys next week.